Like, okay, you are live. I'm looking down here to see if we're live. Come on. I think we are.
It looks like it. Yeah, I'm seeing something. So.
Yeah, I don't see anybody. Oh, yes, yep. Here we are. We are live. Hi.
I've lost sound.
Did you hear any of that?
No, it
Over
went.
my earpiece.
Yeah, you went. You went deaf. You went mute for a while.
Okay,
You're
that's very interesting.
you're
Thank
mute
you for
again.
that. I'm mute again.
In and out. In and out.
I, okay. Oh, so are you. How interesting. Yeah, you're muting too. Isn't that nice? How about now? Do you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I hear you too. Okay, weird thing. 20 people are here. Thank you very much. Tree Hugging Buddhist, Janine, Ariel, Linda, Jan, Jody, Nadia, Nancy B2. Good morning, everybody. I'm here with Kim McNeil, who is a non-Sea Org second gen Scientology survivor who grew up in Canada. So she's a foreigner, and she probably has a very thick accent. We hope everybody can understand her. Okay, good. You got the joke. Thank you very much for that joke. Okay. I like I like to kid Canadians. Okay, I apologize.
Look there, boy. I can put on a good accent there, right? My people's from the East Coast, and when I needs to, I can put it on real good, like, right? So, okay.
All right, do it. Let's do it in that accent. I love
No,
that.
I
That's
can't
great.
keep it up for that long.
Okay, so Kim, okay, I'm sorry, I'm already derailing this interview. So, there is an East Coast accent in Canada and a West Coast accent in Canada.
And all in between.
Oh, that is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, I'm Alonzo with Alonzo'sBlog.com. Um, I was 16 years in Scientology, 15 years in anti-Scientology. Now I've been 10 years out of both, writing about each. And I'm talking here with a person who whose family got involved in Scientology when she was 8 or 9 years old, and she basically grew up at the Toronto, Canada org as a public Scientologist. So her experience is different from most of the people that we know of as second gens on in the Scientology, anti-Scientology world. And so I want to interview Kim about her experiences growing up in Scientology so that she can kind of explain and give a little bit of context. All right, so Kim, so you were 8, right, when your family joined Scientology?
I had my aunt was in it since 1968, 69. So I knew I had been to the org as a little kid because I would go visit her for at least once a year for Santa Claus parade that used to go right by the org. So I used to go there for one night on the Santa Claus parade. That was my first memory of the org, the old org on Avenue Road back in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what year was that?
That was the years I would have been starting there would have been 73, 72, 73, 74 in that early era. Yeah.
Okay, so bunch of hippies basically at the org, right?
Yes.
It's kind of a hippie culture.
Yes.
Yeah. It changed quite a bit after that, but I remember the hippie type. There was still a kind of hippie hangover when I got involved in the mid '80s, and I knew just from people that had been there that like it really was a culture of love and for flower power and stuff, and then Scientology spirituality, which was very different later when it became much more militaristic. But anyway,
so. Yeah, I was mainly gone by then. I had been out of it for so long. I had no idea how it had evolved into what it is, what we recognize today. So.
Okay, so you were involved from, like you say, 73, 74 until when?
83, 84. and a
80,
little beyond, but not doing courses. Well, actually, my mom never really left, but in the context, I had an employer for a time after I left, like in my mind, in my
yeah.
body, but yeah, I worked for a Scientology. My employer for a time was a Scientologist. So
Yeah, that's very interesting to me. In the JWs, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they have these terms for uh, for various states of being dedicated to the Jehovah's Witnesses, and one of them is, let's see, MIPO or PIMO, physically in, mentally out,
yes,
and so that was you, right?
for those years, like into the mid to late 80s, like I I had people coming up to me trying to drag me back in to
Yeah,
and basically showing up at my house without uninvited, phoning at least daily. So I always had that as thing, and of course my mom was in the background. But I know that uh by 1989, 90, I was vocally out amongst anybody I knew that was a Scientologist, including my mother and my aunt. And like I was saying, I'm out. I never
yeah, you're
spoke
like,
out. I never spoke out publicly, but they knew I was not interested. So
yeah. So you then there was a period where you were mentally in. Is that correct? How would you describe
yeah.
that?
Uh, so probably the best way to sort of address this is how I viewed Scientology when my mom first got us in there. What drew? I'm not sure exactly what her objective was going there per se, but as a little kid looking at her troubled life and what a life had been like with her, I thought, oh, based on what I was sort of getting from talk and stuff, and what my aunt was saying or the people around me were saying, that maybe, oh, Scientology will help her, and I that gave me a sense of relief as a little kid,
So yeah, so your purpose was to help your mom with Scientology.
or that would helping her, Scientology helping her would help us.
Yeah, I had a very similar thing with my mom. Believe it or not, I got involved. I got my whole family involved. But one of the reasons was my mom was just miserable all the time, and I thought that Scientology might be able to help her. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. So you're growing up at the Toronto org. What are the kinds of stuff that you did there at the org?
Well, initially, my even though I was aware, I had been to the org and stuff. My mom wound up being sort of my aunt. Sorry, let's start with my aunt. She became a well-known, respected auditor of at that time, like whatever level she was at. She was considered bee's knees, but she was working at Celebrity Center, and my mom was basically um, brought over there to help babysit some of the staff babies. There was a lot of babies born at that time, so infants,
Yeah.
toddlers. So my mom was brought in to babysit, and I was helping my mom. And part reason I wound up helping my mom was it was summertime mainly, and so to keep me busy and stuff was to put me on course. So when I wasn't
Oh,
taking care of babies, I was put on course.
very
Um,
interesting.
but even before that, my mom had already sort of brought us into what was called learning interest and motivation, applied scholastics, education alive. So we'd had some connection to Scientology just prior to that, around the same time, in regards to like how we studied our education, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. And so basically, she put you on course in order to make sure that you're occupied instead of sitting you in front of a TV, right, during the summertime. She put
right,
you on course,
yeah.
and
And
so
my first course was the basic study manual.
yeah. So how did you feel about that? Were you like
I kind of
completely?
loved the attention because I actually basically had what felt like the supervisor all to myself, and she was lovely, and she had to do method 7 word clearing with me because the concepts and the vocabulary was much more mature than 11, 12-year-old girl would be, because that's about what I was, 11, 12. And so
Yeah.
I managed to get through it. I mean,
Yes.
um,
So it was just a lot of word clearing and a lot of
and
rereading and
concepts I had to I don't know that my maturity level really saw the bigger concept of some of what was in there, or references that would be made. I can't remember a lot about the course, other than I knew that some of it was rather bewildering. But
Yeah.
it was not the first time I was introduced to TRs, even though there's not
Okay.
TRs in that course. I was encouraged to do, there might be TRs in it, but they're very basic. I was encouraged to do TRs at that time in Celebrity Center with adults. I was the only child on course.
Yeah. So
However,
how did that go? How did that go?
well, just a little backstory to the TRs is I had been introduced to TRs at Applied Scholastics, Learning Interest, Motivation, whatever, through another student that was there, which is Gavin Potter. And
Yeah.
that's a name that's it's around. And so
Yes.
he tried to teach us TRs, which is of course breaking all the rules because it's like verbal tech. But anyway, so he tried. I thought at the time when he introduced them to me and my younger brother, not my youngest, but my younger brother, I thought it was a game. That's how I first.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to Celebrity Center and I was doing the course, and they needed someone to twin for TRs, the seriousness of it was sort of dawning on, oh, it's not really a game. And and I was very, very bewildered by this be there thing. Like, you just be there, just do it, just be there. And I, as a kid, I really wasn't getting the concepts, right? So
Yeah. 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 I can see how that would be. Yeah. So okay. So all right. So you said that you got quite a bit of, you got more training than you got auditing, right? And
yes.
so what were some of the courses, like an overview of some of the courses
All
that
right,
you did?
I made a list. So
Okay.
I did the basic study manual, communication course, the student hat.
Oh,
Uh,
student hat with all the tapes and everything.
oh yeah, that was
Oh,
my, yeah, bizarre. And I remember the exam on that almost didn't go well. Almost didn't. I was almost going to get sent down to redo it all. That was not a good memory.
okay.
But
All
and
right.
then
So student hat.
yeah, and then I don't know if it was. I don't think it was before, but after that was the upper index, which is now called the Pro TRs course. But I did the upper index TRs, and
I'm
then
familiar. Yeah.
yeah, and then by then I was ready to start the e-meter course. And I remember I didn't have an e-meter of my own, but my mom had, even though my mom was nowhere near that level of training yet, she'd bought an e-meter, and I was
Yeah.
using her e-meter. And if I didn't have hers, I was uh, using some other e-meter at the time.
I
So
understand.
I do remember learning about tone arm, and yeah. And then I guess I got far enough where we were doing drills um, on level 0. Is that possible? Like,
Drills on level zero. So you were studying to deliver the level zero, uh, grade zero
yeah, that's
as
when
an
I
auditor.
yeah, that's when I left.
Okay. And so
Oh,
you had obviously you
yeah,
you
I
had
also
obviously gotten onto that auditor's course called Level Zero with the intention of delivering grade zero to
yeah,
PCs.
at least I was going to wind up twinning. I remember I had a twin at some point. And I had
Okay.
always had various twins, like everything that always was not always the same twin, but I had twins through all those courses. And also, I did a course. I did the Hubbard Qualified HQS, and I did the ups and downs, which is the
Yeah. So
first place I learned about overts and withholds.
okay. So this is months and months and years of studying Scientology on course.
Yeah,
Yeah. Did so? What about auditing? Did you receive auditing as well?
the auditing. The I remember doing some kind of early auditing where it was real basic stuff where we were handling something in present time. So there was an upset. Say, I don't even, honestly, I don't even remember what it was, but say I was having some kind of upset with my mom and something
Yep.
happened. I remember going, say, okay, your mom said this and this to you. Can you recall an earlier time she said this and this to you? That kind of
Uh,
auditing.
right.
Recall the earliest time
Okay.
you can when
Yes, I think it's called life repair. Was it called life repair?
it may have been, but it was addressing that it seemed to somehow be connected with ups and downs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Very good. So
yeah.
there's some questions in the chat here. Um, what year did you do level 0?
That would have been just before I left, so that would have been easily 83.
Okay, 83. And a twin is a partner on a course. You do all the drills with each other, and you get each other through the course. You're actually supposed to be responsible for your twin. You remember being responsible for your twin, Kim?
Yeah, like, and they were adults. I never I outside
Oh,
of my own
wow.
brother, I like there was somebody there, in some other chats and stuff. There was people who may have been former Scientologists who said children do not do TRs with adults. Bullshit. 99% of my TRs were done with adults,
Yeah, yeah,
male or female. So,
yeah. How'd you feel about that? Did you feel overwhelmed, or did you feel like you were getting, the real thing? How'd you feel?
it's funny whether they deliberately meant it or not. There was a lot of love bombing about how mature and and precocious I was, that kind of stuff. And when you're prepubescent going into your puberty, that is like, yeah, bees to honey. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I can remember, as an adult seeing kids, on course and stuff, and I was literal admiration for them. As here I am, a Scientologist, a dedicated Scientologist, and I see a new generation of Scientologists coming up, and to me, it felt like, we're alive, we have a future, etc. And so when there was somebody like that, I felt real admiration for them. So do you believe that they were faking it and they were just trying to keep you going?
um I don't know that it was that. I don't think they real I don't think I think it was deliberate, but not with something. There wasn't something sort of nefarious per se. It was just an
Yeah,
but what but for a young person who wants to be thought of as a mature and smart and stuff, it's very intoxicating.
yeah, yeah. So here's another question: did you ever go see the ethics officer?
Yes, not a lot. When I was doing
Okay,
the ups and downs course, definitely. And I don't know if it was always this ethics office, but if the different things were happening at the end of the course, I'd go to the case supervisor, and they'd address how what when my wins were, that kind of thing. So just check. And I remember going to the um the case supervisor routinely throughout the course, whatever course I was taking. It wasn't always at the end. It could be a number of times during it. The ethics officer tended to the involvement in my family tended to always seem to involve my mother,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So you did a lot of PTS handlings with your mother.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so PTS is potential trouble source, and in this level of Scientology, um, you're taught that if you are connected to a person who is suppressing you, then you tend to go up and down in life, and you're labeled PTS. And there are all these handlings. What were some of the handlings that were given to you to handle your mother with as a PTS person?
well, she sort of was. Some of it was just routine teenage parent stuff, but my mom tended to use Scientology as a bit of a, a, a behavioral modification weapon. uh,
Uh-huh.
and so uh, she would she, uh, she would try and she would manipulate me to sort of do what she was determined I should do Scientology, and that's how it got weaponized. That Scientology, that if things would be better between her and I, the more Scientology I did.
Yeah, yeah. I,
Right.
I, that's kind of how I approached my family too. As long as I got everybody on the course, we were all going to become a better family,
Right.
right? And there was this intention to use Scientology so that we could all get along, or to improve the behavior of another member of the family, right? So
Yeah.
your mom was doing this with you. Do
Yeah.
you
And
feel like?
yeah, and with probably, and certainly with my older brother too. And I mentioned this in one of DOA's
Oh
thing about
yeah,
how my brother was the first to go on course with my mom right at the beginning, 73, 74. He was 11 when he was on course with my mom, I think HQS, and they were doing it together. And something happened. I don't know what happened. And he was taken into ethics, and whatever went down, he was apparently, we only discovered this later, that he was given the Johannesburg sec check,
yeah.
and he was crushed. And within a year, he was out of our lives in a foster home.
At
And
what age? At what age was he
he
in a
would have been
foster home?
11, 11, 12, 12, probably 12.
Wow.
Yeah. And because this all happened when he was 11. So within a year later, he had, and when I asked him more recently, when this was all opening up about all this, former Scientologists talking out, I approached him about what happened for him. And as much as the Joburg was terrible, and he described it as he felt like the the um, the examiner, whoever was, or the ethics, whoever was doing it with him, he said they were treating me like they thought I was a criminal.
Yeah.
And now
And
seeing
so
what the
11
questions are, yeah,
and 11 or 12. And then all of a sudden, like the handling for him was to make him leave the family and go off to a foster home.
right, because he was already a trouble kid before Scientology, so Scientology was also meant to help him. I guess it was deemed at some point that Scientology wasn't going to be the thing to help him, and that he was an impediment to my mom going up the bridge.
Yeah, he was an impediment to your mom going up the bridge. So, do you believe that your mom worked with the org to make this handling of having him leave the family and go off to a foster home? Disconnection?
It would be speculation, because it wasn't full disconnection, but it was definitely separation. Like he never lived back full time again ever in our
with
lives.
the with the family. That is fascinating. That is actually tragic. There's a question here. Why is it called the Joburg? And I'll answer that. I had to study it on the Seychelles Special Reading course. So there was a period where L. Ron Hubbard was living in South Africa, and he got himself involved in South African politics. At that time, there was, white supremacist apartheid in South Africa, and L. Ron Hubbard got with the white supremacist government to produce. This is where the word security check actually came from, where he's working with this government, and they're saying, there are these um, tribes that are trying to overthrow our government and our power structure, and we need to know who the revolutionaries are. So Hubbard created this security check to put people on the meter in order to find out if they're insurrectionists or revolutionaries, etc., for the for the Johannesburg government. Okay, it
Yeah.
was one of the first, and it was one of the first sec checks ever created. And I remember when I was studying it, the first line is, "We are not moralists." And it began his argument for why we need to pull the overts and withholds out of people. And of course, it was a political thing at first. We need to find out who the revolutionaries are in the white supremacist apartheid government in South Africa. So then that became this confessional procedure. And your brother received this thing, which is wild to me, Kim,
As a boy, he was still a
as
boy.
a boy. Yeah, that is really wild. So things. So he went in. He went to ethics in order to try to get his ethics in and not be a problem to your mother, basically. And then he ended up in a Joburg sec check. And then after that, because it probably went really poorly, it was just decided we need to disconnect from him and send him to a foster.
Yeah, like now this is in retrospect, because I would not have been privy to any of this, particularly at the time. I was 9, 10. I don't know. Like I
Yeah,
just, but
yeah,
my brother and I, when we talk about it and we remember what was happening, when he describes what's happening, had I not been in this community for the last nearly 2 years and learned
yeah.
about these things, I wouldn't know what he was describing to me. because
Very
I had never
interesting.
heard of the
Yeah.
Joburg until these last couple of years. So when he's
Yes.
explaining, I'm going, oh my God, look what they did to you. I thought I'm more appalled by Scientology when I found this out. I thought, oh my God, but for me, ethics was a way for my mom to get her way. That's basically the thing. I
Like a
would say,
power. She
yeah,
wielded like a cudgel or a power thing
yeah,
over the family.
and I would say that they
Wow.
would that because my mom was known for someone who could get money, get courses done, or buy auditing, or certainly one she was thought of as upstat, and so it was rare when I was going to win the debate with this in with the ethics officer. It happened, but it was rare. It was mainly, uh, you know, I was basically being corrected. You
So
know,
you just said there was a time when you won the debate with the ethics officer?
no, with my mom, with the ethics officer on my side.
Okay. Wow, that is so interesting. Like the family dynamic of using Scientology to discipline her family, basically, right?
Yeah, and this
Okay.
was a circumstance. This is a circumstance where she got disciplined and basically shown the book about why we don't what the rule is about including authorities in our lives as Scientologists, that we handle it amongst ourselves. I was getting ready to leave home, and she threatened to call Children's Aid, which is Children's Services in the United States, call Children's Aid,
Understood.
and
Yeah.
basically threatening me to stay home, still be at home with my son. Um, no good reason. I wasn't a threat to my son or anything like that. That's not the issue. But because she threatened to bring in outside authorities, the ethics officer basically, read the riot act to her. That's the only time I ever,
Because yeah, so
felt justice.
because Scientology has to be the authority, not any outside. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Um,
And in the end,
so
it was fine. It was also told I was fine. You can leave home. You're good to go. You know.
in the end, so
Yeah.
that was the handling. Right? Very interesting. So, uh, how's your brother doing today?
Uh. Okay. I'm not going to blame Scientology for his present condition. That's not. That's not reasonable. That would be disingenuous. It sure didn't help. Hey, dog. Um.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, he was a troubled kid. Scientology kind of did not do anything to address any of that. Matt kind of just added insult to injury, and the years following that clearly did not help him. And he struggled with uh, drugs and alcohol and relationship problems and broken marriages and so on and so on. It's not a good
yeah,
situation. I mean, he's
I
stable right
see.
now, but it's not. It's so much. It could have been so much better for him.
Very interesting.
But I don't blame.
So,
He doesn't blame Scientology. I don't blame Scientology for his condition. It was a factor. It played a short time role in things, but and this is where I want to make an important how I want to make a distinguishing sort of mark is that what I grapple with right now is how much am I addressing since my mother's death 2 years ago, not quite 2 years ago. How much am I addressing that, like her part in all of this, and where Scientology either interfered, mitigated, made it worse, so on and so on. And that's kind of where I'm at for my recovery and all of this. So,
well, what? Then tell. Have you made any progress on this? Because I remember you said this in DOA where you've entered this community in order to try to work things out and reconcile things. Do you feel like you're making progress along those lines?
if only, even if only just being aware of, well, first of all, the memories are coming back because I think I was pretty good at burying anything to do with Scientology. I had had counseling for other things over the years after Scientology, but Scientology was sort of in the background, but it was never something that was directly addressed. There was so much else going on to deal with. And early childhood traumas with SA, that was addressed. Stuff in relation to my son, that was addressed. So there's all that was more the focus. And also, I don't think I ever encountered a professional that would have had the chops to deal with Scientology. So it never came
Yeah.
up, right? There may be
Yeah.
more people that can address that now, but certainly I don't think so back then. And that's 25 years ago or more, 30 years ago. So yeah, 30 years ago. So
Okay.
yeah.
So like, how do you feel like you're doing? Like, is Scientology? Do you feel like Scientology is like a problem for you, or and that you need to solve, or how do you see this?
Um, I okay, I don't identify as a Scientologist in any shape or form, but I know it's impacted me. It has shaped me,
Hmm.
it's socialized me to one degree or another for a particular 10, 12 years of my life, right? At a
Yeah.
kind of a critical time of my development, I would think. Um, and what I'm reconciling now is what came as a result. My mom disconnected from all four of her kids for the last 25 years of her life. That's incredibly painful, hurtful. Now, someone might argue, don't you think that might have happened with or without Scientology? Without, maybe it happens. My mom was a troubled person. She was, she was work. Being around her, being in her space was work. Um, Scientology didn't make being her kids any easier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you can see I'm at an angle during that. I
yeah.
apologize so much for what my phone did while you were talking. And I'm going to leave it like this because what we're talking about, I think, is incredibly important. So uh, so you're kind of on this quest, basically, coming back into this area, and um, you feel like you've made some progress as far as reconciling this. But
Uh,
what kind of things do you want to reconcile? Like, what is it that what kind of answers do you want to get?
uh, well, interesting. I want to know what I is there things that I sort of reflexively, um, like, is there a reflexive lens that happens? Like, am I seeing the world reflexively through Scientology eyes? And I do. It's not what I would.
Okay.
It's not what I identify with, but there's this um, sort of reflex thought processes from from whatever socialization I had in those critical years. Those thoughts are in my head now. I don't believe them now. I don't live by them. I hope I don't view the world through that, but they are there, and I'm kind of grappling with, will they always be there? Will I have to always sort of, okay, that's not how I really think. I really think this, but it's there as a, it's like it's not quite like trauma. You know how some people can view, they wind up, uh, their trauma informs a lot of their everyday life.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily try describe my experience in Scientology as outright trauma the way other things have been in my life, but it's had what I might describe as a sort of outsized influence,
Outside influence.
like
Okay.
an oversized influence.
Yeah. Oversized influence. I like that. That's a great concept to think about. What about this idea? Okay. And this is something I ran into in my own quote unquote recovery. Um, and it had to do with I learned this word nocebo. I knew what a placebo was. You take this sugar pill and you'll feel better, or you'll get better, and it's just sugar pill, and you do get better. But a nocebo is take this sugar pill and you'll get worse, and you do get worse, even though it's just a sugar pill. So I found in my journey, okay, that there's all this negative things about having been in Scientology, like these suggestions that you've gotten brain damage from what they taught you, or it's not brain damage, but it's suggested like that, and you got to look around and go, have I really been damaged by having like these beliefs and stuff? And then I personally, for me, I realized no, this is like being in another country. Okay, another country has a different culture. Okay, I'm back in this country, and I'm just making like a cultural transition between, having lived in Egypt versus living in North America. So what do you think about that idea as far as this
I
thing
can
about?
I as a mature person now, I can sort of see what your point of view is, because, and I said this in one of our private conversations in our private, is that you were a fully formed personality, for good or bad,
Yes,
when you chose Scientology. I think
yes,
where there's this sort of missing sort of bit of understanding between maybe yourself and some of the others that uh, like, whether Sea Org or not, is that um, your identity had been, you laid out the rule. You were well formed. Whereas
I
Scientology,
understand.
yeah, Scientology's had an influence on informing my thought process. Now I've worked hard to not let that be who I am now, but I have to acknowledge it is part of who I am. I'm not kind of trying to escape it. I'm trying to accept it, put it where it needs to be, mitigate my behavior for it, because I don't believe it. It's not who I think, but it's there. I think that's the big difference, is that um, uh, if it's hurt me, what it did is it stunted me.
Stunted you?
It
Like
stunted
in
me
what way?
from trusting other things. When I needed to, I took way too long to go to counseling. When I needed
Yeah,
to, I took way too long to take medication when I needed it. So, uh, as my the socialization I had in Scientology informed some of my more present day feelings on important matters.
yeah, yeah. I
And
can
so,
see that.
yeah, and so I mean, that it there's I would say, on a conscious level, there's nothing about Scientology that informs my everyday approach. But when I'm in an emotional sort of moment, or I can think, like, if I'm feeling down or something bad has happened, I'm brought back temporarily, very temporarily, but to overts and withholds, to you pulled it in. Those are, unfortunately, they are concepts that I can't fully escape. I don't believe them. I don't address them like that. I don't address the problems like that. But that is the background noise in my freaking head, and I'd rather not have it, but I may never escape it. So
I see. Very interesting. And I take your point. Uh, I was 23, a college student, and I had my own ideas about stuff when I walked in. And that was very different from somebody who's 8 or 9 and being sent to the ethics officer and, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I
and
was sent to the counselor, and my parents were, on my ass all the time too, enforcing ideas on me as well. But not like an ethics officer. He's got this book that he's wrotely following, an ideology. Yeah, very different
yeah, like
for sure.
my Scientology gave my mom more power over me,
Yeah,
right?
yep,
And lots of license, and and so that's how, and it just complicated an already difficult situation. I certainly didn't, as a 9-year-old, imagine that's what was going to happen. Certainly not. I had all the best hopes and intentions for Scientology. I thought, oh, this is it, you know but no,
you did, huh?
I
And
did.
it just didn't work. Like you saw the results with your brother. You saw how your mom used it. You saw all this stuff, and it's like, okay, all of this promise that was sold to me, it isn't ending up as real benefits.
No,
Is that correct? Yeah, same with me.
I can promise you that anybody that I've known in Scientology who's been out, who may still very well be in, I'm not too close to anybody who's actually in. I do not see, in my estimation, um, including my mom, I do not see their life in any kind of positive uh, trajectory at all. In
Yeah,
fact, I see, in the case of my mom, her life ended up extremely lonely and, like, sad, very, very sad. So
yeah. Yeah, I've seen the same thing, and I think that people that do end up successful, even though they are still Scientologists, they were always going to be successful. You know, some people like Chick Corea, for instance, the jazz musician, dude was just a genius, and Scientology couldn't harm him. Basically, he would say that Scientology enhanced his musical genius. Um, but you know, in the end, he was a Scientologist for so long. I think there's a big element that it couldn't harm him because he was such a genius, right?
And also, when you talk about someone like that who is a celebrity, we all know that there is a Scientology for the average folk. There's Scientology for Sea Org staff, and public. But when you're a celebrity, something special goes on. So.
Exactly. You can smoke pot, and they may just, slap you on your wrist. But you or me or somebody else, oh, you're dead meat, and you're threatened, like with expulsion and stuff.
Yeah,
Never a celebrity with a bunch of money, though.
yeah,
No, for smoking pot.
yeah. Like
Okay.
for me, when I look back at my family history, and that one of the modern sort of terms nowadays is sort of generational trauma. There's part I can empathize with why my mom, even before Scientology, was the way she was. I can look at like my experience of my grandmother. Her mother was, I have nothing positive to say about my grandmother in any emotional way and practical ways. My grandmother was amazing. Like she could cook, sew, knit, crochet. Like she could do all these very practical things that
Yeah.
seemed important on some superficial level, but on a human level, my grandmother was dreadful, and my mom had to live her whole life. And I don't look at when I look back, I thought, oh, my mom would had divorced. She had children to different men, didn't marry them, and you know I would look at my cousin, and this is, I'm not trying to compare, this is not, but it sort of tells something about our bigger picture, our bigger family picture. Is I thought because some of my cousins had better material uh, sort of lives, and at least on the had the pretense of a better life, I thought, oh, we're so screwed up compared to them. But now as adults, it all comes out, and I have two cousins who died in the last 5 years, both uh, through suicide, and they're my age, and
Wow.
these are grown people, nothing to do with Scientology.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is something going on. There's been alcoholism, like all that stuff is there, and um, uh, there's nothing about my. I wouldn't say that I'm like some big huge success. I've functioned pretty good, all things considered. When I consider what could have been, or how
Yeah.
much but there's nothing. Okay, nothing about Scientology gave me that. What Scientology
Yeah.
did, if Scientology has anything to do with that at all, it is how not to do things, how not to view the world. The Scientology lens is not a lens of humanity at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a paramilitary thing that produces people that are more soldiers than human, and it's like a fixed ideology that has these simplistic answers like OWs, you pulled it in, all this crap that just doesn't work in real life at all.
Yeah, a lot of
And for
people ask,
me,
well, go ahead. Sorry.
it took me 16 years to figure that out, you know. But you left for a reason. Like, did you come to that kind of conclusion? Like, this is
I
crap. This doesn't help anybody, or why did you leave?
it was never anything that obvious for me. It was, I mean, there was little things that, like, a lot of people have described, where there was little things that got planted and never kind of left you, like the guy who gave us the OT3 cognition.
Yeah,
and and the fact that he disappeared, he told us that and then he left town. And that kind of stuck with me. There was all these things like that where something's not adding up. And my role in my family was always the pleaser, the helper, the, don't make trouble, make things easier for mommy, that kind of thing. and that's a role I continued with in Scientology. So most of my connection to or my activity in Scientology was go along to get along. Scientology was never something I particularly desired, had any great interest in, and maybe a little fascination about something once in a while. Like, oh, that's interesting. But that would be any kind of human concept or idea or whatever, So, but I would never describe my relationship to Scientology as something I've taken on board spiritually.
Yeah.
Ever. But nonetheless, I say there is still that background noise of the messaging, the conditioning, the socialization that's there. Right?
So was there kind of a final straw, last straw for you that made you leave or anything like that?
Uh, no, because I think it was too gradual. Because I wanted to stop. Like I didn't like auditing. I was doing I was actually doing with Gavin Potter's dad. Graham Potter was my auditor. I was doing the upper index auditing with him. That was one of the last things I did outside of the level 0.
Yeah, I do believe that. I think what that would be the CCHs or the objectives, right?
The objectives.
Those
Thank you.
the
That's how.
auditing actually.
Yeah, the object.
Yeah,
That's what I was doing. Yeah.
and the upper indoc TRs train you on how to deliver those things. And they're questions that you've seen in the movie The Master. It's what Joaquin Phoenix was going back and forth across the wall, touch that wall, thank you, turn around, thank you, walked over to the other wall, all of that for hours and hours and hours.
Ashtray,
yeah,
stand up,
yelling,
thank you,
yeah,
sit down, thank you.
Right. That's a TR. That's an actual TR.
I know, but
right. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. There's nothing like it in our culture, so it's considered weird. But the purpose of that drill is to show you that yelling isn't intention. That intention is separate from yelling. It's just one of these things that Herbert was trying to do.
It separates you from your real self. It really forces you to be performative. That's how I
performative. Performative. Go. What do you mean by performative?
When you have normal human interactions, you're not editing yourself constantly. Maybe some people are, but Scientology, I kind of kept thinking like I always had to sort of put it on. Oh, I better be doing Scientology. I better be addressing this in a Scientological way. I better be behaving the way it's expected through what's expected and how I keep my TRs in. And, I project just so, and, tone 40 or whatever bullshit, all that, and the issue around how you get, like, I remember on the ups and downs course, the one that not only addressed overs and withholds, but it also addressed the tone scale.
Okay.
And I believe it did anyway, or that's how
Yes, it did.
Okay.
It did. I probably did the same one you did.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, well, then we're expected to sort of pretend to be higher tone. It's not like we really feel that way today. We're expected to get to that. We're supposed to present with that. So that's when I say performative. That I'm really happy. Things are really great, but you're shitting your pants.
No, right, exactly. There is a social construct or social personality in a group of Scientologists, and it always includes being uptown. No doubt about it. I remember when I was studying on course at Big Blue, there would be Sea Org members, and I was on the PTSSP course, and I was spotting emotional tone levels. Right, I was going out and spotting people's emotional tone level, and I'm watching Sea Org members, and I realized there's a Sea Org personality that they always have to be walking quickly. Okay, they're walking quickly. They've got their thing on there, and they're effective, always effective. And I'm like, okay, this is a fake personality that's created by the group. Yeah. And so, the emotional tone scale is a huge part of that.
Yeah, and I,
And
I felt I felt like a faker. That's how I felt. Somebody asked, did I just caught this out of the corner of my eye. Do you think
yeah,
Scientology was growing? Did they have gazillions of members? Given what I saw, yes. Because my only example is the Toronto org, and in the days when I was there, it was growing out of its seams. It really was.
yep,
It was. We had 3 course rooms. We had the basic course room that was down in the main floor. We had the academy on the second floor, and then there was a third floor where you do the loudest, the upper indocs, the big noise kind of processing, like training and stuff, where it was just too noisy
yeah,
to have that in the regular class. Yeah, so it was a busy
yeah,
place.
yeah. And I heard the late '70s and early '80s were like that, and that growth kind of continued through the '80s into the early '90s, and then just stopped. And
Yeah,
I think the reason for that is because the internet arrived, and
yeah.
exes were able to tell their stories, and that was
Well,
pretty much
yeah.
the end of Scientology.
These also these various evolutions of buy more books, do more courses again, do all your courses again, get all your
Yeah,
credentials all again. I knew nothing about that till the last 2 years. I knew nothing. I had people sort of was saying something in the background, but I was like, so like I really didn't give it a lot of mind. But now I realize what they were kind of sort of quietly complaining about. These are people I was tangentially still connected with that were Scientologists, who you could sense there was some dissatisfaction. But I didn't know how to fit it. I didn't know the a whole context, right? So now I've learned
yeah,
why Scientology, in spite of getting their tax deduction or tax exempt status, which I remember hearing in the news, um, uh, I would have thought that they were just it was kept growing, but I didn't realize how many people, and I didn't even realize that there was such an independent Scientology movement either, and that came later as well. However, I knew a guy who I used to work for as a babysitter, and he was a musician, and I used to take care of his 2 kids, and he was one of the band members for a Canadian band called Chester, and the song they were most famous for was "Make My Life a Little Bit Brighter." Make my life a little bit brighter. Like whatever. Anyway, he
right.
was he was I think he was maybe up to level 7 auditor. I can't recall, but he was auditing, and he trained, and he was an auditor, and he tried to take patients, or not patients, uh, pre-clears outside of Scientology's purview, the church's purview, and got declared. And his story, he was one of the people that kind of tried to pull me back into Scientology too in those intervening years in the 80s. He was one that tried to pull
Yeah.
me back in, um, but he wound up being declared. If you look up Michael Argue, you will see him come up. If you put Michael Argue Scientology, um, you'll see the information about him, and that he committed suicide. As,
Oh, so he
as
was
in,
a.
as,
Hold on. Okay, this is very interesting to me. Okay, so he was a big squirrel in the Toronto area.
not
Okay,
initially, of course, not initially, but that's what he became.
no,
Yes.
he became one, and he began auditing PCs outside of the church, taking money and not sending a case stuff lines. Right? Okay, and so as a squirrel, a prominent squirrel in the Toronto area, um, you say that he committed suicide. He committed the S word, is
Yeah.
what we say
Sorry.
here
Sorry.
on
Yes.
on YouTube.
After,
Yes.
if you can read online, I was shocked to find this out, and very, a little bit heartbroken to find that I knew somebody that this happened to, where they literally did things to destroy his life. Like it's documented. You
Right.
know.
So he was fair gamed, heavily fair gamed, and then he supposedly ended up committing the S word. Have you ever looked into the circumstances regarding that S word?
I wouldn't know where to begin. And here, like Canadian stuff, it our if the health services were involved and they didn't deem it as some sort of suspicious death, you're not going to find anything out. It's all very protected information.
I
So
see.
yeah, I
Well,
mean,
see this very. And what year was the S word?
it was definitely sometime the late '90s, early 2000s. That's my
Yeah.
memory.
So that's
Yeah.
okay. There was a lot of those around in that period of time. Very interesting. What was his name again?
Michael Argue.
Michael Argue, and you say he was a musician and he had a hit song of some kind.
Mhm.
Okay, and so
Yeah,
he had
a
he
Canadian
had
gold record, make my life a little bit brighter.
Canadian gold record. Well, so Scientology, he would have what they would call communication lines, and he would have a little bit of power. He had a way to speak out, and he would be listened to with a Canadian gold record, and so he would have been a threat. So that's very interesting to me, Kim.
Yeah, like
Um,
I didn't
so
know him in those latter years of his life. I mean, I probably saw him last. My son would have been about 10. So yeah, I probably saw him last 1990, and he was really pushing to get me back into Scientology. Whether
yeah,
I don't know if he wanted me to do auditing with him or he actually wanted me back in Scientology. I don't know where he was on his squirreling, thing, but I remember him really confronting me about how I needed to do more Scientology, and I was going,
yeah,
no, no,
yeah,
I
yeah.
helped.
You need,
By then, I could hold my ground. By then, I was able to
yeah,
hold my
good,
ground.
very good. So okay, so it's 8:58, and we're coming up towards the end here. Is there? I have a question I'm going to ask you. This is something I'm going to establish for all my interviews. But before I ask you that, what is it that you really want to say before we end? Like, if you had to make a statement about your view of Scientology and your past in it, what would you say?
Don't do it.
Okay.
Don't do it. I don't. I mean, there's some little talk about whether everything is about Scientology is bad. Well, that's not possible because no one would go through the front door. No one would. There is some there is some small validity of truth in some of what Hubbard put together. That's even professionals who study Scientology outside of Scientology at universities, they do draw connections to what might resonate with people. But the controlling aspects of Scientology, the way you're meant to basically uh, consider yourself broken, needing fixing constantly.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that is that those are to me. Now they're not. That's again. I'm not going to. It's not necessarily entirely. Uh, you know, exclusive to Scientology, but they really, for young people especially, it has a heck of an impact about on your self esteem. And fighting against it is um, is a strong point. If you can pull it off, like I'm going to say something I want to say is anybody who's talking out now, no matter where you came from in Scientology, Sea Org, staff, uh, public, whatever, wherever you're doing, if you're talking out, you're made it. In spite of the shit that Scientology was laying on you, you made it. You got out. You brought all that baggage and all that pain and everything with you, but you got out. There was something in you that kept you did not lose all of your sober second thought. Your self-determination was still, some part of it was still intact. It did not fully get destroyed. And
Yes.
that's an important thing. I think that, you know, and that's how I view myself getting out, and how I even now going forward. Okay, it was a time in my life. It wasn't, to be honest, it wasn't the worst of thing that happened to me. It was an important thing. It was an influential thing. It's something I've carried for. But of all the things I've had to cope with, that Scientology was not the worst thing for me. Although I know that there are cases, particularly Sea Org kids, cadet kids, where obviously, based on the experiences they had, it it has an enormous effect on them, even as adults. You know, but yeah, it's but it's, to me, it's about always moving forward, always recovering. How am I going to, right now I'm in a bit of a spin because I'm trying to figure it out, but I know, like before, I'll get through it. This, I, I didn't want Scientology to be part of my life when it was happening. I managed to get it out of my life. I don't want going forward to be everything about Scientology either. They
Yeah.
they had captured enough of my life, period. And so
Yeah.
this is
So,
healing for me. This is very healing to learn things that happened. What my thoughts were, why, oh, that was a weird thing. Know that I wasn't imagining things, my fears, my concerns, they were not, there were not something unique to me, that, oh, other people in Scientology who got out have these shared experiences with me. And
yes.
that's important.
Okay. So what you're saying is you're not going to be starting up a YouTube channel and start getting into streamer wars or do
Well,
anything like that.
if
You're here.
I
You're
have a
here for
channel.
a finite. You're here for a finite purpose, and once that's achieved, you're gone. Do I
I
have
don't.
that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that. I can't say that for sure, because I keep, like, I have subscribed and unsubscribed to every channel in the community, back and forth numerous times. Angry, felt unsafe, felt felt lied to, felt betrayed. I've had all the gambit of emotions involving this community, and it's like herding cats, us people. We like, and it's not unique to the ex-Scientology world, but it literally is like, can nobody gets on the same page in this community. It's hilarious. But as somebody, I guess what I would want to say to myself 2 years ago, before I got on this journey,
Yeah.
is that uh, uh, it may not always feel safe. You may not always feel welcome. Your story may not fit the narrative. But I mean, we're all different people, so why would our stories all be complete? They can't be the same. They're all different. How it affects us going forward, we all have different personalities, different previous experiences. It's so I don't I guess the thing that I get frustrated listening to is that there seems to be sometimes the message is how we should be as former Scientologists, or what
Yeah.
there's only
Exactly.
a certain accepted uh, purview of accepted Scientology story. That's something that might be a little nuanced, a little out of the ordinary, or maybe more benign. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no.
No, can't have that. Yeah. And
You know,
we need to fair game that guy who's got that weird type of story. Yes. I'm
and
very familiar with that.
right. And so part
Yeah.
of my why I deleted some of my protesting uh, videos and kind of backed away. I mean, I would be in chats and I still watch, but I was not consuming it the way I once did. Is that uh, a lot of it is noise. There's a lot of noise. I don't know where it's getting. There's some of what's going on is rehashing trauma over and over again. Yeah, okay. And I worry that for as a viewer of that's hard to watch sometimes, having to sort of uh you got a channel, you got viewers, there's an expectation, maybe your channel's funding your life. uh maybe uh you're ripping the scab off, and maybe healing is getting delayed because of it. It's speculation, just me talking. But uh like, I wonder, for some people in this community, like, do they have a jumping off point? When are they done with this?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've asked myself that question, Al.
yeah,
When do you jump off of this? When are
right,
you done? Would you achieve, and when you would be done? And
right,
I think for me, I think I actually have an answer for that. I think once Jerry Armstrong gets into court, I'm done. That's that's how I'm seeing it, and I'm going to go on walkabout all through Wyoming. That's
yeah,
my plan.
yeah. My
And
channel
so,
will probably go to more of my the stuff that I like doing, arts and crafts. So that's probably where I'm going to go with it. That's why
yeah,
it's called the Puttering Princess. So,
okay.
but
So I
yeah,
was going to ask you that. So to putter is to go around and fix things and clean up things, right? Okay,
yeah,
okay. And so that's you're the putter princess. I get it. Okay, all right. So let me ask you this final question. Um, we both, yeah, I think everyone can agree that the truth about anything is both the good and the bad, right? So for you, what is, I'm going to ask you two. What is the bad? What's the worst thing about Scientology in your opinion, from your viewpoint and in your life? And what's the best thing?
Worst thing
So
is
first,
they make you mistrust your own instinct, your own intuition. It is there's given no might give it lip service, but your intuition, all those little feelies, all those little messages, they stunt them, they numb them. That is the whole purpose.
excellent. I, I have to totally agree with you, Kim. That is so insightful. Okay,
That's
so what about the best? What about the best?
um
The
I
good.
mean,
The
I think
good.
yeah, I mean just sort of in addition, I think community, like any group, there is that level of community. Um if I had to pick something good, there are, like, for instance, I never raised my son with Scientology. I never imposed that on him, but I tried to think, well, did it affect him? Was there something about it? And I recall that something I thought was very successful, and I don't know that it's something original to L. Ron Hubbard that he invented it, but the locational for little babies when they're upset.
Oh,
So
really?
besides comforting him and stuff, but just if he's having like a burnout moment, he's like, he's walking him around and getting him to look at things in like, I don't know that I followed all the rules about a locational per se, but my
Well,
version of
hold on. Let me define locational for the audience. So a locational is it's not an auditing procedure, but it is a remedy type of a procedure where if you're all upset and you're really angry and your intention is way out inside of your brain and you're just stuck in this upset, a locational would be to go out and look at things, intentionally look at things near and far, to get your attention extroverted rather than being introverted. So you're saying that giving your child a locational every once in a while when he needed it turned out to be helpful.
well, what I kind of observed was that it kind of, like, if he was super upset, it kind of slowed the upset down enough where we could come to I could get some figure out what it is he was after, what it was that was upsetting him, because kids melt down, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
and it's not like you shouldn't, like, yeah, I would not ever suggest you walk away from it. Now, like some people say, just let them, maybe a little bit, you kind of let them melt down a little bit, but my thing was to I liked the locational thing, because then he felt, okay, mommy's paying attention, mommy's going
Yeah.
to talk to me, we're going to work through this. Now, I don't even know, looking back, if that was the whole objective behind it, if it ever reached the level of end phenomena. I don't know, I don't care. The point was that for me as a young mom, it was a tool I was happy to use, and I didn't think it was any kind of thing that I imposed on him that was going to leave any residue harm.
Yeah.
Right? Touch
It was
assists, I
just
thought touch assists were bullshit, but that's okay.
yeah. I have to say, I'm going to tell just a story. I had a wisdom tooth pulled, and because I was a Scientologist, I had Novocaine, and I couldn't even have aspirin. Okay, and my auditor, I was on staff, and my mission holder was a really well trained auditor from, trained by L. Ron Hubbard since the very first month, June of 1950. And so I'm laying on the couch after my wisdom tooth is pulled, and I'm curled up in a ball crying from the pain as the Novocaine worked off. And I call my mission holder, who was also at work, and I said, I'm going to take some aspirin, George. This is too much. I can't stand it. He goes, meet me down at the mission. And he takes me down to the mission. I lay on a table, and I am in so much pain I can't lay still, and he starts doing a touch assist on me, and it lasted for about 20 minutes, and it was absolute hell, sitting there trying to be still, feel my finger, thank you, feel my finger, thank you, feel my finger.
Yeah.
And then he came up here and he said, right where the wisdom tooth was, he says, feel my finger. And there was, I swear to God, like a lightning explosion type thing, and the pain was gone, completely gone, and all I felt was like the skin had been rubbed with sandpaper or something. There was irritation where the tooth had been pulled out, and that was it. And this was a very early thing for me, and I'm like, okay, this stuff works. This is fantastic. But everybody else, I hate touch assists. You know, the touch assists are horrible, and I really did have some really bad touch assists after that.
Yeah.
But that did happen to me early on in my career
Yeah. I
as
had
a
touch assist
Scientologist.
for headaches that lasted till the headache was done on its own.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Okay. So we've been through the heaven and the hell and the heaven. Okay. Both the good and the bad. And we've ended up at the bad. Isn't that interesting? Okay. So, we've got 106 people watching now. We started streaming 70 minutes ago. Can't see how many likes for some reason. Hit the like button if you feel that deserves it. Hit the dislike button if you feel that deserves it. Thank you everybody for being here. I'm going to have to end off. I know there's a bunch of other questions. Maybe I can have Kim on again and she can answer some of these questions. But we're going to need to end off now. Thanks,
Yep.
Kim.
It's been
Thanks
great,
for
guys.
showing up.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll see ya.
Okay.